Doctor, quick was a heading in the Times Higher Education supplement in the UK last week, and it dealt with the problems of regulation and streamlining which we have been experiencing in the UK. And since this is a panel about national and institutional frameworks, so my talk will be focusing very much on the UK problems. So, process of PhD research in general is not specific to translation studies, but in general PhD research becoming more regulated. There's more focus on the quick element, not to the detriment of quality, one might hasten to add. Because universities are judged by how quickly they produce doctorates, what the completion rate is. Funding councils give money to universities now increasingly on the basis of how quickly they have produced large amounts of doctors. If universities do not end up with very good results in this respect, so then there will be less money available. And one of the other elements, which is actually a quite positive thing, is that research training or skills in training in research skills is becoming more and more important and is seen as the responsibility of the institutions. So institutions have to provide evidence also to the funding councils of what provision is in place for training. So questions then related to this then, who provides the training, what specifically is provided, what's the content, when and where is it done, if you have kind of completion needs to be done in 3 years' time. Just to remind us of what we are talking about, and that's also what I put on the handout here. Because Eve mentioned Bologna process, and there are also these kind of definitions of what is expected of a doctorate, so the completion of the 3rd cycle. So those of you who are still working towards the PhD or the equivalent in your country, so here is what we need to do. We have demonstrated systematic understanding of field of study, mastery of the skills and methods of research associated with that field, so translation studies in the widest sense. Ability to conceive, design, implement, adapt a substantial process of research. So we're talking about the process of our 3 years minimum, what we are learning. And substantial contribution, original research that extends the frontier of knowledge, developing a substantial body of work, so there's also a product at the end of this process of the 3 years. And also capable to analyze, evaluate, communicate with peers, also communicate beyond the specific community we are working in, and contribution to the technological, social, cultural advancements in a knowledge-based society. I love all these big words which you find in these documents. So, back to the UK. The research councils a few years ago developed a framework or a joint statement specifying what training in research skills need to address, and that's what I have copied on the handout, because there are these 7 general areas, but for each area you have more specific information than what is to be addressed. So research skills, techniques, research environment, management, personal effectiveness, communication skills, networking, teamwork, and career management. I'm not talking about all of those, but just a few. Because what we can probably all of us most easily relate to is then we're talking about skills, techniques in the specific discipline we are working in. So need to be able to recognize, validate problems, form and test hypotheses, but that's what we have heard in the minor dissertations. But independent critical thinking, ability to develop theoretical concepts, not only develop, because not everybody needs to come up with new concepts, but also kind of use existing concepts and see which ones fit. Knowledge of recent advances within one's field and related areas. So that's the question, how much do we need to know about what translation studies is, and who is who, and who has said what, and which theory might be better than another one. So it's also an interesting question then, but am I the specialist? Do I know quite a lot about my specific topic, or do I know a bit more about the discipline as well? Understand if relevant research methodologies, techniques, applicable to the field, critical analysis, evaluate one's findings and those of others, ability to summarize, report, reflect, progress. So who is responsible for these more specific research skills which are more closely related to the topic we are working on? So obviously the supervisor is a very important person here, because that's the person with whom doctoral students have closest contacts. But also, I mean, when we say the institution has the responsibility of developing training, if you have a university where you have a larger group of PhD students in translation studies, then it's probably easier to organize specific seminars more specifically devoted to translation studies. If you have just one or two students in the discipline, so it becomes a bit more difficult just to organize something. So therefore, in conference participation, summer schools like CETRA or others, should also be what we are looking at provision or research training, so not only the more specific one. Also in the UK, there was a recent survey of, the first one actually in 2009, where doctoral students had been asked about their own experience as doctoral students, and they had been asked to rank the importance of different elements and how they rate the quality of the provision. And out of 5, you see supervision was rated as the most important one with a mean score of 3.93, skills development came second then here. And just 2 quotes here from the survey. 82% agreed to a statement that supervisors have the necessary skills and subject knowledge to adequately support my research. And 62%, which I think is a bit low, I have received good guidance in my literature search from my supervisor. I think this is also something we can talk about. So is it the responsibility of the supervisor to tell the student, here is a reading list and now go and read these books, or is it more the responsibility of the student to say, well, here is my reading list, that's what I want to read, and then maybe give guidance, say, well, this book might be more important than something else. So this is something open for discussion. So the second element of this research council statement refers to the research environment. So, and again, this is something which I'd quite like us to talk about. Because it also says training needs to address the issue of that students should get a wide or broad understanding of the context at national and international level in which research takes place. So it's already kind of going beyond the specific kind of knowledge and skills we need for working on a particular PhD topic. Demonstrate awareness of issues related to the rights of other researchers, so that's the whole issue of ethics, which is definitely something very important. Understanding processes for funding and evaluation of research. So this is already kind of now looking ahead. So once you have finished, what will you do? When you have had your viva, you have successfully finished, you have got your doctorate. So what is your career then? What are the requirements of the profession? And asking for funding for continuing research is also something where what these research councils expect here, that you should not be left on your own, working more narrowly on your field, but so you should also learn something about what is later required. I put at the end here the apprenticeships to learn what the profession requires. In 3 years, can you manage all this? Understand the process of academic commercial exploitation of your results. Maybe not so much in translations, but maybe with your lawyers and judges exploiting what you find out about the interpreters there. So how can we do all this, these additional things, which are the wider field, and who is supposed to do it? So the universities do organize some kind of training at the departmental or the faculty, or also the level of the university, so where then you do not have translation studies PhD students sitting together, but all PhD students in a school, in a faculty, so where some more generic skills can be delivered there.